All right, happy Thursday. Hopefully, everyone is doing great. I'm doing good. I just got my booster shot. No side effects. So I feel pretty good right now. I thought we would do a rapid fire video around the league, certainly with the trade deadline 2 months away. We'll look at some key topics here. I wrote some notes down, and we're going to do a little bit of a rapid fire. Couple housekeeping notes here. I want to thank everyone for watching these videos. We went from the bootlegged version on Instagram, where we were getting about 2,500 to 3,000 views. We've done, I think, 4 videos, and we have topped 140,000 views as far as for people watching. So I want to thank our great social team at ESPN, certainly YouTube, and I get it. Being on YouTube on an ESPN platform is a game changer. So I am very appreciative of everyone who watches these videos. Hopefully, you find them informative. Bring out a little bit of a different personality in me than what you see behind the camera. Sometimes, if you're watching NBA Today, you're probably like, "Man, that guy is." It's all straight and narrow. And trust me, I was a C student in school, and I had to grind through it. And I do a lot of research. I enjoy what I'm doing, and I'm glad I'm able to kind of put these videos out for you that you enjoy here. So I usually have if you're new to this, I usually have a co-host, and she's sleeping right now. My dog Skylar usually kind of sits on my lap. We'll bring her in another video here. But so thank you to everyone who's watched these videos. We're going to keep on doing them. Certainly when we get closer to the trade deadline, we're going to ramp it up here. But I wanted to do a rapid fire around the league. And we're going to start with the 3 teams out west. I call them the big 3 now. And I think certainly when you look at Utah, what they've been able to do, and certainly with the hiring of Danny Ainge to head over basketball operations, they need to be talked about in the same light as Golden State and certainly what Phoenix, last year's Western Conference champions. And the big question for them is, are all 3 teams kind of content where they are? I think if you're Golden State and you've got Klay Thompson coming back and you've got James Wiseman coming back, and knowing the track record of Bob Myers, their head of basketball operations, it's not in his DNA, as I've mentioned before, to kind of shake up the roster, especially with those 2 players. Have never done a trade during those dynasty years. I don't see anything kind of coming down the pike. They've got 15 players under contract. Joe Lacob is content on paying that whopper of a luxury tax bill, and I don't see any trimming around the edges type deal just to move salary to save some money. So I don't see anything big when it comes to the Golden State Warriors. When it comes to Phoenix, Phoenix has got 3 tradable assets that you don't have to disrupt your core, your 8 or 9 man rotation. When you look at Dario Saric, do I have that right, Boki? Jalen Smith, their former first-round pick, who they did not exercise his 3rd team option. And then they've got a first-round pick that they can trade in 2024. So when you combine those 3, gets you to about $12 million in salary. What's going to be out there for them in that $14 to $15 million range? They still have a buffer to go under, that they're under the luxury tax. They can take back, $15, $16 million salary. Is it a player like Thaddeus Young in San Antonio? Has not played many minutes there. That could be a key name to keep an eye out. So I see Phoenix potentially as a team that could be active. Certainly content as far as where their roster is right now. They've got to get Devin Booker back, keep DeAndre Ayton healthy. Utah is the other team. Team continuity, as I call them. Basically, they had a bitter pill as far as what happened in the conference semifinals to the Clippers. They brought back the same roster. They've got 2 franchise players in Donovan Mitchell and certainly in Rudy Gobert. They improved their bench when you added Rudy Gay and Hassan Whiteside to kind of go with Joe Ingles and Jordan Clarkson. They are deep. They are 9 to 10 players deep. Certainly with Bogdanovic, Royce O'Neal, Mike Conley. They've got a really strong core. you go back and look at the Jazz track record, their trade deadline stuff is usually happens in December. They did the Jordan Clarkson trade. They don't usually wait until February 10th, mid-February to do a deal. If there's an opportunity out there, they're going to do it. But I see them more of a team that's content. Although Danny Ainge is on board now, I think Danny's probably looking at it more of an evaluation standpoint. They've got multiple draft picks that are going out. I don't see anything from a trade asset standpoint when it comes to their draft picks there. And I see them as a team that is content. The disappointing team so far, when Washington and New York, and I'm going to go into the Wizards in a minute. When I got this job at ESPN back in 2017, one of the big things when I sat down with the people who oversee SportsCenter, our content group, is whenever you say something, you've got to own it, right? So you're not going to backtrack. You're not going to kind of, play Monday morning quarterback. You're not going to have amnesia. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago when the Wizards were rolling, they were 11-5. I said on Twitter, the Westbrook trade, where Washington got back Dinwiddie and KCP, Montrezl Harrell, Kyle Kuzma, Aaron Holiday. I said that was probably that could go down as one of the great trades in the last 20 years. I am going to own it. I read social media. I see Laker fans commenting as far as, you still think that's one of the great trades? It's great as far as where the Wizards were. That was a team that was in that land of nowhere. I get it with Westbrook and Beal, but Tommy Shepard, their GM, had to do something to kind of shake it up. They have struggled. They are 1-6 in their last 7 games. They are 4-10 in their last 14. I'm going to talk about it today on NBA Today. You've got the future of Bradley Beal hanging over their head as far as I don't see him signing that extension. It makes no sense. I think Beal will go into free agency and he will look at his options. What are his options? There are not many teams out there with cap space when you look at teams like San Antonio, Orlando, potentially Memphis, Detroit. So I think Beal is going to look at where this team is, what deals are there at the deadline. I don't see Tommy Shepard content as far as the roster that is in place, certainly how this team has stumbled. So I am going to own it. Just like when I said Golden State wasn't going to make the playoffs after they lost KD and Clay was injured, and Warrior fans went crazy. People at ESPN went crazy. They thought I didn't know what I was talking about. I had a very smart man who oversees SportsCenter, I'm not going to say his name, came and sat with me and he says, now you own that. And I'm going to own it when I said that that Wizards transaction, that 5-for-1 deal with Westbrook, is one of the better transactions that I've seen in the last 20 years. And I'm going to stick with that. So that's a little bit about the Wizards there. Certainly a disappointment of how they played. And I think their head coach, Wes Unseld, said, a little bit of their spirit has been taken out as far as, they're 35-16 in the fourth quarter to Sacramento on Wednesday night, getting blown out in the first half, playing to catch up here. I'm interested to see how this team regroups. Spencer Dinwiddie has not played well. I think he's averaging about 8 points, shooting 32%, 17% from 3. Is it because of the ACL and as far as coming back and it's going to take him time? I don't know how much time this Washington team has, especially when you have the Beal future hanging over your head here. So I'm not talking about Beal getting traded at the deadline. I'm not talking about anything like that. But I do think there's another move out there, and that's why when you make that trade and you broke up that contract into 4 or 5 different players, now you have a ton of tradable assets. The other team is the Knicks, right? Certainly a disappointment, 12-16 out of the top 10 in the Eastern Conference right now. I don't know what their identity is. And I had someone close to their organization tell me we've lost our identity. And when you're 30 games in and you don't know what your identity is, you're in trouble. You are in trouble. And I think you traded some of that identity when he didn't re-sign Reggie Bullock and you brought in Kemba Walker. Low risk move, right? 2 years, $16 million, low risk move. Evan Fournier, a little bit of a high risk move, especially 4 for 72. I was on board. It's public knowledge. I liked what New York did. Singles and doubles. If there's not a big fish out there, don't go out and spend a whopper of money or don't give up draft assets. So I think the honeymoon is over for Leon Rose last year. It was all peaches and cream here as far as how that team went. They overachieved. I think they were a little bit exposed in that Atlanta series. Of course, my screen just went out, so I got to pull up my notes again. So I think New York, certainly where they have with draft picks, they've got the Charlotte pick, they've got the Dallas pick, they've got 7 of their own first-round picks here. They've got contratable contracts here. The other thing, too, is regarding their roster. If you look at their roster, who's gotten better on that team, right? I think only Obi Toppin is probably the one guy that has gotten better. So that is team disappointment, certainly with where Washington's going. They're still in it. I think they can still jump to that top 6, and certainly where New York has played. My wild card teams. These are my wild card teams to keep an eye on when we get to the trade deadline. And there's 3 of them, right? Cleveland and Memphis, sitting in the 4 seed in the East and West, just like everybody thought of it. We certainly thought Memphis was certainly a play-in team at worst. Cleveland, man, do we owe you an apology? I think we had you 30th in our future power rankings based on your roster. The Bigs, Mobley, Markkanen, Allen, Garland's play like an all-star. Their depth, when you look at Kevin Love, when you look at Cedi Osman, when you look at certainly Ricky Rubio, I've read about, you've got 8 players deep right now. And I look at Cleveland like a guy who's at the poker table, right? You're playing blackjack, you're playing poker, you've got a chip, you got your chips are high. Do you walk away from the table, or do you just keep on playing as far as from a aggressive standpoint when we get closer to the trade deadline? Is there another deal out there? They've got all their first round picks to kind of push into the middle. I don't think they are a win now team, meaning like they're not where Brooklyn is, they're not where Milwaukee is. I think you can kind of just let it grow a little bit, but at the other end of the day, don't think your window is always open, right? Don't think you've got 4 years to figure this out. I think if there's a move out there, and I know Kobe Altman, they'll take advantage of it, especially where this organization has been the last 3 or 4 years. Memphis sitting in the 4 hole, 9-1, I think, with the Ja Morant injury. Tyus Jones has played well. Desmond Bane, man, if you're a Celtic fan, whew, and you traded that pick to Memphis and you basically got nothing for it. I know I've made a share of bad trades in my career, but man, those are deals that kind of just eat you up here. And he is progressing like a borderline all-star here. And Jaren Jackson Jr., you are 9 and 10 deep. You've got all your draft picks. You've got picks from Utah. You've got picks from Golden State. You've got a Laker pick. You've got the deal. You've got assets out there to go out and make a deal. Is Jaylen Brown available? Pick up the phone and check it out. Certainly for a Boston team that's struggling, I don't think he is. I think that's something maybe this offseason, if they continue to hover around that 500, you can package up a lot of things. Certainly those 3 picks that are not even yours, maybe some of your players, and go out for those, we call them those Tier B All-Stars, right? So Memphis, that is a wild card team. I don't know if I think there's too much separation from where they are and where the big 3 in the Western Conference, Utah, Golden State, and Phoenix here. And then the 3rd team, Sacramento, haven't made the playoffs since 05-06. They're in the 10 seed. They are a play-in team. When you haven't made the playoffs, there's nobody on your roster that's untouchable, right? And there is a thirst out there if you look at either Harrison Barnes, Davion Mitchell, Halliburton, Fox. You can go down. Thompson, Alex Len. I mean, the list goes on. And Marvin Bagley, that nobody should be off the table from Sacramento standpoint. And I think if there is a deal out there to make this team better and you have to risk either a young player or a future draft pick, I think Monty McNair is going to go out and do that. I think they're aggressive enough there. So those are my wild card teams. My guys that are likely to be traded, Dennis Schroeder is the first guy. And you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute, Schroeder's been good for Boston. Signed a 1-year, $5.9 million contract. He's got non-bird rights. The most that Boston can pay him, I believe, is $7 million, right around there. That's not going to do it, man. That ain't going to do it. And when you look at the Celtics cap situation, likely tax team. They are not going to afford to bring Schroeder back. Certainly Kemba Walker in New York. We'll see what happens there. Karis LeVert. The Lakers I talked about on NBA Today. What you see is what you get team. Their big trade assets are Talon Horton-Tucker and a 2027 or 2028 first round pick. I don't see Russell Westbrook for Ben Simmons. Sorry, Laker fans. The only way I even remotely would be that someone loves Westbrook enough where you get a third team involved and that player gets shipped to Philly. I don't see a Westbrook to Simmons deal at all. I don't want to kill anyone's hopes there. Certainly, if you're the Lakers, there's no harm to pick up the phone and check what it would cost you. And I think their big asset is Horton-Tucker and that first-round pick. They've got 10 minimum guys, right? So that ain't going to do it here. And certainly LeBron and AD are not going away. Karis LeVert, certainly keep an eye on. We mentioned Horton-Tucker as far as players likely to be traded. Dallas is interesting, just finding help for Luka. They've actually played a little bit better defensively with him off the court. They've got a lot of role players out there. Finney-Smith, Kleber, guys like that. Dwight Powell. Does that get enough to get something done? They owe a pick to New York that's protected in the top, I believe, top 10 in 2023. Eventually, we're going to have to look at buyout guys. Certainly, Dragic in Toronto, Satoransky in New Orleans, Gary Harris in Orlando, Kemba, certainly if there's no deal in New York, certainly imagine getting bought out twice in the same year. So those are some buyout guys to look at. Another question someone asked me, do I think Brandon Ingram is available in New Orleans? I don't think Ingram is available. Certainly big wings are a priority out there. And unless there's a sweetheart of a deal out there, he played great in that crazy win against OKC. He's had a good year. 6'9" wing. Teams crave that. Who's under contract for the next 4 years. I don't see Brandon Ingram being available out there. So that is a rapid fire around the league. 17 minutes, a long video. Hopefully you enjoy it. You have a great Thursday. I am heading out to Vegas on Sunday for the G League Classic. Looking forward to it. Hopefully everyone stays safe.